I was reborn into a tragic novel, becoming the female lead's mother. When I saw the female lead being cornered by bullies, I didn't hesitate. I stepped forward and kicked them, catching the bullies completely off guard. Afterward, I took the female lead's hand and said seriously, "If anyone asks, just say you were the one who beat them up." The female lead looked at me in shock, her eyes filled with confusion. "Mom," I gently patted her head. "Good girl, you're underage. Fighting isn't illegal." I reincarnated into an abusive novel, becoming the female lead's mother. In the original story, the female lead was unloved by both parents, suffered school bullying, grew up to be a stand-in for a scumbag, gave up a kidney for love, and finally died of stomach cancer. Truly as tragic as it gets, I decided to be a real mother to her, changing her fate against all odds and setting her on the path of a power fantasy. I was reborn on the first day of the book. And because the female lead got into a fight, I was called to the school by the homeroom teacher. When I walked into the office, Winnie was standing in the corner with her head down, her face still bearing obvious slap marks. Opposite her stood three haughty individuals, looking as if they were interrogating a criminal. Without showing any emotion, I stepped forward and greeted the homeroom teacher. "Hello, teacher, I'm Winnie's mother. May I ask what happened?" The bespectacled man gave me a slight nod, his tone neither warm nor cold. "We suspect Winnie stole Heidi's phone, so we called you in to handle this." I turned to look at the two people standing opposite, presumably Heidi and her mother. I nodded and pointed at the slap mark on Winnie's face. "Then what's this about?" The homeroom teacher adjusted his glasses. "Well, you see, because Winnie stole the phone, Heidi got emotional in the heat of the moment, and the two ended up in a fight." Hearing this, I couldn't help but find it amusing. Just moments ago, there was suspicion that Winnie had stolen the phone, and now she's already been convicted. I turned to look at Heidi again. She was clean from head to toe, without a single scratch. As for Winnie, not to mention the obvious slap mark on her face, her school uniform was covered in footprints and dust. Anyone who isn't blind can see this is just bullying by the majority against the few. Suppressing my anger, I asked the homeroom teacher, "Teacher, whether it's about stealing a phone or fighting, shouldn't we check the surveillance footage?" The homeroom teacher shook her head. "There are no cameras in the classroom." So after all this fuss, they're just playing cops and judges, thinking way too highly of themselves. I looked at Winnie. "Winnie, they said you stole a phone, did you?" Winnie raised her head to look at me, her face full of grievance, tears in her eyes, her voice trembling. "I didn't, that's my phone." I nodded and raised my hand, wanting to pat her head to comfort her, but as soon as I lifted my hand, she instinctively stepped back. This was that half-step back you took meant to be serious. My hand froze mid-air, feeling slightly awkward. Sigh, can't really blame her. In the original story, Winnie had an instinctive fear of me as her mother. "I'll take it slow." I withdrew my hand and said to the homeroom teacher and Heidi and her mother, "Since we each have our own version of events, let's call the police." I looked at Heidi with a serious expression and said, "But there's one thing that needs to be clarified. The phone is worth over $3,000, and the real thief could be sent to jail." "Heidi, you know that, right?" Heidi was taken aback by my question. Despite her guilty conscience, she still retorted defiantly, "If anyone should be arrested, it's Winnie." "Why are you looking at me?" I smirked. "So she's playing, who's the undercover, with me. I've read the original text. How could I not know who the werewolf is?" I pulled out my phone, dialed 911, thumb hovering over the call button, and challenged Heidi with a look. "Fine, then I'll just call the police." I counted silently in my head, 1, 2, 3. As expected, Heidi stopped me. "Wait." I raised my eyebrows. "What? Have you remembered whose phone this is?" Being young and lacking in cunning, Heidi was already blushing furiously, stammering, It was a mistake. Winnie's phone looks just like mine." Hearing Heidi's words, her mother and the homeroom teacher finally caught on and quickly stepped forward to smooth things over. "Heidi's mom, Winnie's mom, kids will be kids. It's all just play. You can't take it seriously." The homeroom teacher, "Yes, these are just minor issues. Our school can handle them. There's no need to involve the police." I narrowed my eyes and glanced at them sideways. "Fine. Then how do you propose the school should handle it?" Heidi's mom and the homeroom teacher exchanged looks, hesitating for a long time, then let Heidi write a self-criticism and apologize to Winnie. Can self-criticism put food on the table? If apologies worked, who would still read revenge stories? I pointed at the slap mark on Winnie's face. No need for a self-criticism. Who wants to read such nonsense? Whoever left this slap, let us return it, and this matter will be settled. Upon hearing this, Heidi's mother and the homeroom teacher both looked at me in shock. Heidi's mother tried to persuade me, Winnie's mom, how can you educate a child like this? I put on a proper smile and retorted, and how did you educate yours, to raise Heidi like this? Upon hearing this, Heidi's mother turned alternately red and pale. I pulled Winnie forward and patted her back, encouraging her, go on, hit back, right in the face. At my words, Winnie shrank back like a frightened rabbit. Looking at me with fear, maybe, let's just forget it, sigh. After all, she's the protagonist of an abuse novel, too soft by nature, I sighed, then slapped Heidi across the face. A few seconds later, 5 bright red finger marks appeared on Heidi's face, and I nodded in satisfaction. I turned to Winnie and said, see, today I'm demonstrating for you. Next time, you'll have to do it yourself, understand? Meanwhile, Winnie stood there with her mouth agape, staring at me in shock. Everyone present thought I would let it go, but that slap truly came out of nowhere. Even Heidi herself took a moment to react, glaring at me with reddened eyes. How dare you fucking hit me? I raised an eyebrow and looked at her, my gaze filled with warning. Not only do I dare to hit you, but if you bully Winnie again, I can hit you even harder next time. After handling this little episode, I took Winnie out of the office. She kept her head down the whole way, not saying a word. Does it still hurt? I asked. She looked up at me and shook her head, her eyes filled with trepidation. Are you scared? I asked again. She nodded and replied to me in a faint voice, I'm sorry, this apology was unexpected. What are you sorry for? Winnie looked full of guilt. I've caused you trouble. Oh my, is this the logic of an abusive story? The female lead not only has to endure abuse, but also willingly believes the fault lies with herself. Sis, you're being gaslighted. I smiled helplessly, placed both hands on Winnie's shoulders, and said with utmost seriousness, it's not your fault if a dog bites you. The only mistake you made today was not picking up a stone to chase the dog away, understand? Winnie stared at me, her small eyes filled with big confusion. Standing there in a daze, sigh, maybe my analogy was too effective. I added, life brings troubles every day, but you need to grow stronger. We don't start trouble, but we don't back down from it either. At this, Winnie finally showed a hint of reaction and hurriedly explained, I didn't start anything. Well, there goes my impassioned speech. Never mind. I patted her shoulder. All right, I get it. Go to class now. I watched Winnie's frail figure and couldn't help but sigh. Turning a tragic story into a satisfying one takes real effort. It's a long and arduous road. After leaving Winnie's school, I hurried home without a moment's delay. In the original story, Winnie's father had passed away unexpectedly a year ago. This charming widow of mine found a wealthy old man, living a carefree life herself while completely neglecting Winnie. But right now, I have no interest in some twilight romance with an old man. I want to raise a badass female protagonist for a power fantasy novel. But let's be real, who isn't a rich second-generation heir in those power fantasy stories? I need to quickly tally up how much money I have on hand, or else I'd be too embarrassed to call myself the doting mother of a power fantasy protagonist. Yet, the tragic novel genre never fails me. After scouring all the Chandler family's passbooks, bank cards, and stock accounts, the total came to less than 4 digits. The only somewhat valuable asset in this house might be this old, shabby little property. However, unless this house gets demolished for redevelopment, the only way for Winnie to become a rich second-generation heir is if I coincidentally meet a wealthy old man. What a cursed fate. I sat on the floor in a daze, staring blankly at everything before me, feeling utterly hopeless, just when I thought I was at the end of my rope. The phone rang, and the caller ID showed it was my mom. I answered the call, and the old lady on the other end sounded furious. Lucy, where's your brother's living allowance for this month? Why haven't you sent it yet? What the hell? Are you playing dumb with me? Your brother's wife is pregnant, and you still owe her living expenses. Have you no shame? Send the money now. My mom's words were a real wake-up call. My original self was a complete enabler for my younger brother. She spent both her and Winnie's dad's entire salaries just to buy her brother a wedding apartment. Every month, she'd also send living expenses to her brother and his wife, allowing them to laze around at home, doing nothing but waiting to die. Heck, the only reason she married that rich old man was because her brother's son needed to attend an elite kindergarten, and she simply couldn't afford it anymore. At this thought, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Mom, listen to me, thank you. I cheerfully hung up the old lady's phone call. Money, here it comes. I immediately took a taxi to the Real Estate Administration Bureau. I was right. The house my brother is living in is still under mortgage, tied to my Housing Provident Fund, so it's still technically in my name for now. I immediately applied to report the loss and reissue the property deed, then promptly listed the house on a real estate trading website. A flurry of decisive moves. Let's just say I've taken a giant leap closer to becoming the badass heroine of a revenge fantasy. I quickly called Winnie to share the exciting news. After all, such uplifting updates are meant to be celebrated with the leading lady herself, but I called 3 times in a row, and Winnie didn't answer. I frowned, sensing something was wrong. After slapping Heidi so hard today, as a bully, she was likely to retaliate against Winnie. Thinking this, I hurried to hail a cab and rushed to the school. But during the rush hour, the taxi was stuck in traffic, driving my short temper up the wall. I got out and flagged down a motorcycle, swiftly hopping onto the back seat. Sir, to the gate of number 8 high school, here's $50, keep the change. The motorcycle driver, wearing a helmet, gave me a sinister glance. I tapped his helmet impatiently and urged, hurry up, it's a matter of life and death. If we're late, all that's left is to collect the body. The driver was a decent guy. Hearing this, he didn't even wait for the red light to change, just hit the gas and sped off. When I arrived at the entrance of number 8 middle school, I pulled out a $50 bill and slapped it onto the driver's chest. No need for words. Your kindness is beyond thanks. Then I turned and sprinted toward the alley by the school gate. I quickly reached the alley entrance and saw Winnie being cornered against the wall by Heidi and her gang. Heidi held a craft knife in her hand and threatened Winnie, get on your knees and apologize to me, now. Tears streaming down her face and her whole body trembling, Winnie fell to her knees with a thud. I'm sorry, she stammered. Heidi reached out and patted Winnie's face. You worthless trash. How dare you mess with me? Then, Heidi shot a glance at the boy standing nearby. The boy knowingly walked up to Winnie and took out a bottle of yellow liquid. Drink this bottle of urine. And we won't hit you today. Winnie looked up at the boy, her eyes filled with terror. I'm sorry. Winnie began frantically apologizing, repeating, I'm sorry, while kowtowing to the group. She wanted to beg them to let her go in this way, but seeing Winnie groveling and kowtowing to apologize only made the group even more excited and brazen. The boy grabbed Winnie's hair and yanked her head up. We already said, drink this bottle of piss and we won't hit you. What are you afraid of? After saying this, Heidi and the group burst into laughter, cursing while laughing. What a spineless wretch. Seeing this scene made my blood boil with anger. I picked up a brick nearby, rushed over, and smashed it right on the guy's head. Bullying a woman and still acting so smug. You're the real scum. The guy clutched his head and turned to glare at me viciously. Who the hell are you? How dare you hit me? I walked over to help Winnie up. Who I am doesn't matter, today. I'm here to teach you a lesson on behalf of your mother, so you'll learn what it really means to be a man. With that, I punched him in the face. Before being reborn into this book, I had trained in mixed martial arts, and my coach was a golden belt holder. With that one punch, the boy was knocked straight to the ground. Heidi couldn't hold back when she saw this and shouted, get him together. Several burly boys charged forward first, but I kicked them out with just a few strikes. Seizing the moment, I handed the brick from earlier to Winnie. Take it. Winnie looked utterly bewildered as she took the brick, staring at me in complete confusion. I sighed. What are you waiting for? Start swinging. After saying that, I rushed forward, first dislocating the arms of a few guys, then slapping each of the girls hard across the face. Heidi was cunning and didn't dare confront me directly, so she ran off to bully the weak by targeting Winnie. Heidi bared her teeth and started punching and kicking Winnie, who timidly kept backing away in fear. While I was going all out in the front, she was getting sneak attacked at the back. It pissed me off so much. I roared, Winnie, if you don't hit her with a brick today, don't call me mom. Hearing this, Winnie finally mustered up the courage and, when Heidi threw a punch at her, made a motion with the brick toward the other's forehead. Let's just say, the move was stylish, but it didn't do much damage. Whatever, this still counts as a big step for Winnie. After dealing with the people at hand, I went over, grabbed Heidi by the collar, and threw her aside. Then, I turned to look at the bully sprawled on the ground. Today, I went easy on you. If there's a next time, it won't be this lenient. You'd better watch yourselves. With that, I took Winnie and left. At the mouth of the alley, Winnie and I were stopped by the motorcycle rider from earlier. The master removed his helmet, revealing sharp eyebrows, starry eyes, and well-defined facial features. With a tall and robust physique, he looked about the same age as me, a middle-aged handsome guy. I couldn't help but recall the moment earlier when, in a fluster, I slapped $50 onto the master's pectoral muscles. The texture was actually quite nice. What a shame, handsome as he is. He just had to open his mouth. The first thing he said when he saw me was, "I've already called the police." Don't move, dude. You didn't call the police when I was upholding justice, and now that it's all over, you're playing Monday morning quarterback. But complaining was useless. The sound of sirens soon approached. In a panic, I grabbed Winnie's hand and said with utmost seriousness, "Winnie, when the police question us, just say you were the one who beat them all up." Winnie was still shaken. And upon hearing my words, she was even more bewildered, staring at me in stunned silence. I explained, "You're a minor, so fighting isn't illegal. The police officers will understand." Hearing this, Winnie looked at me in surprise and exclaimed somewhat incredulously, "Mom." I patted Winnie's head and said, "Good girl, Winnie, it's settled then." The motorcycle driver overheard our conversation and muttered under his breath, "That's a real mother for you." His tone was full of disdain. I rolled my eyes at him. What the hell does he know? The female lead knows when to yield and when to stand firm, especially since Winnie has the protagonist's halo. I just wonder if the protagonist's halo in a tragic story is really effective. Soon, I and a group of high school students were taken away by the police. The motorcycle rider, named David, recorded a video of Winnie being bullied and gave it to the police as evidence. As for the fight later, it seems his phone malfunctioned and didn't record it. In any case, Winnie was the victim in this incident, although the police found it hard to believe that Winnie single-handedly took on a group of people. Based on my testimony, they also didn't believe that a seemingly fragile housewife like me could knock out a group of people, according to Heidi and others' testimonies. But I know how to hold back. After being beaten by me, Heidi and her group only felt pain, and no actual injuries could be found on them, so the matter was resolved through mediation. Walking out of the police station, I felt the air was exceptionally fresh, though seeing this David still made me uncomfortable. He, however, didn't seem to realize he was unwelcome and shamelessly came over to greet me. "Have you trained in martial arts?" I rolled my eyes at him. "What, wanna fight me?" David smiled, still mad. I called the police for Winnie's sake. I gave him a sidelong glance. "Oh." David patiently explained, "These guys took a loss today, and they might come after Winnie again later. Reporting them was a warning. See, I didn't even release the video of you fighting." I think what he said makes sense. Then I frowned and looked at him warily. "You're not after money, are you? Let me make it clear first. I'm broke." Hearing this, David threw his head back and laughed, pulling a business card from his black windproof jacket. "Not only do I not want your money, I can actually pay you. I run an MMA training gym and we're short on coaches. You're very professional, and I'd like to hire you as a coach with a high salary." I glanced at the black business card with gold trim in my hand. It certainly had style. I raised my eyebrows. "How high is the high salary?" David extended both hands. "A guaranteed $100,000 per month, plus bonuses for good performance." Is running a martial arts school really that profitable? That house of mine would only fetch $2 million if listed for sale. This means Winnie's journey as a female lead has taken yet another big step forward. I immediately grabbed David's hand. "Deal, I'll report in tomorrow." After starting work at the martial arts gym, I dragged Winnie along to learn MMA. Those bullies who harass Winnie every day do so simply because she can't fight back. When Winnie's fists are strong enough, those people will naturally know to scram. Nothing works better than that. So I had David give Winnie a free private lesson. David was puzzled. "Why don't you teach her yourself?" I crossed my legs. "Haven't you heard? Kids are their parents' ancestors. How could I possibly teach her?" David looked utterly unconvinced. "With the way you keep messing with your kid, you're the one acting like the ancestor." To be honest, David wasn't wrong. I really don't treat anyone like an ancestor. But Winnie and I had just started to ease the tension between us. If I went to teach her and made her eat dirt a few more times, wouldn't that just fuel her resentment? I couldn't be bothered to explain and simply said to David, "Are you going to teach her or not? If not, I'll just find another gym to work at." David had no choice but to yield to my overwhelming dominance. To be fair, David is quite professional as a coach. In just half a year, Winnie has become one of the upper middle tier fighters among students in her weight class at the martial arts gym. Most importantly, such an intense sport has somewhat corrected the inherent timidity in her nature. She used to be the easily startled type who would detour around even when seeing aunties arguing on the street. Now, even if she sees gangsters fighting, she can calmly stroll past them without a second glance. However, just when I thought Winnie had escaped the tragic storyline, I received another call from the homeroom teacher summoning me to school. Thinking Winnie must have been bullied again, I let out a sigh. The female lead still can't do without her mom. Once again, I found myself in a familiar scene. In the office, Winnie stood silently in the corner. Across from her were three haughty individuals. Looking as if they were interrogating a criminal, I walked in and, ignoring the presence of the homeroom teacher and parents, pointed at Heidi's nose. "Didn't I tell you that if you bullied Winnie again, I'd make sure to teach you a lesson?" I had barely spoken when everyone turned to look at me in surprise. Heidi lifted her head, one hand still pressing her bleeding nose, and stammered, "Who's bullying who?" I was taken aback by Heidi's appearance, then turned to look at Winnie, though covered in dust. She didn't seem injured. I asked Winnie in surprise. "Did you do this?" Winnie shook her head. She ran into it herself. Heidi, upon hearing this, pinched her nose and said angrily, "If you hadn't started it, would I have bumped into the desk?" Winnie ignored her and turned to me, explaining, "They asked to borrow money from me, and I refused. They started pushing and shoving, so I defended myself." I raised an eyebrow. "How many against how many?" Winnie, 1 versus 5. Me, got hurt. Winnie, "Nope, not bad, not bad. The boy is teachable." This old mother's heart felt quite gratified, and a smile unconsciously appeared on my face as I nodded in satisfaction. The homeroom teacher looked at me with a sinister expression. "Winnie's mom, Winnie injured a classmate. Aren't you going to scold her?" Snapping back to reality, I coughed twice and put on a stern expression. "Winnie, do you realize what you did wrong?" Winnie stared at me blankly, unsure how to respond. I gave her a meaningful look, signaling her to pick up the conversation. Winnie asked in confusion, "Did I do something wrong?" I nodded and pressed further. What exactly was wrong? Winnie was truly baffled this time. I turned to the homeroom teacher, Heidi, and Heidi's mother, and began to explain calmly. "First, you should try courtesy before resorting to force. If a classmate tries to forcibly borrow money from you, you should report it to the homeroom teacher first. Whatever happens afterward would then be reasonable, understand?" Winnie's face suddenly lit up with understanding, and she nodded vigorously. "Second, you didn't grasp the proper technique. When playfully pushing a classmate, how could you let them bump into a desk? The desk is lifeless, but are people's brains lifeless too?" My words were clearly a veiled criticism, yet, Heidi and her mother couldn't find a way to refute me at the moment. I continued leisurely. "Third, last time when Heidi had someone beat you up outside school. We even went to the police station, and there was video evidence. This time, you should learn your lesson, record some videos, gather some witnesses, to avoid unnecessary arguments." After I finished listing points 1, 2, and 3, the homeroom teacher, Heidi, and Heidi's mother all looked extremely displeased. With a smile on my face, I turned to the three of them. "What do you think? Should we hurry over to the police station again today? Any later, and Heidi's nosebleed might dry up." Seeing that I wasn't scolding Winnie but instead trying to escalate the situation, the three of them had no choice but to dissuade me, quickly saying, "That really isn't necessary. It was just some fun between classmates." Seizing the opportunity to back down, I clapped my hands and said, "Exactly, that's precisely what I meant. Let me tell you, it felt so satisfying. My tragic romance heroine has risen up. I feel like I'm standing in the office with an aura of 8 meters. Just as I was floating on cloud 9, still intoxicated by the oxygen, the homeroom teacher snapped me out of it. "Winnie's mom, the reason I called you here today is actually about something else." I couldn't keep the corners of my mouth from curling up as I responded with a smile. "Please go on." The homeroom teacher noticed my expression, turned her head slightly to roll her eyes discreetly, then pulled out a few test papers. "Winnie's grades have always been poor, but in the past 6 months, they've plummeted dramatically. To be honest, it's hard to imagine she still had this much room for further decline." I picked up Winnie's monthly exam papers and began flipping through them repeatedly. Single-digit scores in math, physics, and chemistry. If it weren't for the gloomy expression on the homeroom teacher's face, I might have thought the exam was on a 10-point scale. In an instant, my mood plummeted from the sky to the ground. Winnie's cheerful personality alone isn't enough. We don't have a family business for her to inherit. She needs to be able to support herself. This is also my fault. When I was reading the book earlier, I didn't notice this issue. The female lead was bullied in middle and high school, then saved by the male lead, whose family is quite wealthy. Although the female lead suffered, she didn't seem to have any financial struggles, but now the situation is different. We're changing it to a power fantasy. So Winnie has to experience the hardships of being a working class person too. No, I need to have a proper talk with her. So after dinner, I pulled Winnie aside and took out her monthly exam paper, trying to keep my tone as calm as possible. Winnie, are you having any difficulties with your studies? Winnie looked at me, a hint of evasion in her eyes. I just don't get it. I pointed at the paper. Which question don't you understand? Which part is unclear? Winnie lowered her head and didn't answer. I don't want to be so aggressive either, but according to the homeroom teacher, Winnie wasn't paying attention at all during class. So, setting aside ability for now, her attitude toward learning is a major issue. I sighed and asked, Winnie, do you have any plans for your future? Winnie glanced at me timidly and answered softly, yes. I thought I was hearing things, so I asked again, what? Winnie stood up, went into her room, and brought out a stack of drawing papers, handing them to me. I have a plan. I want to study art and get into an art academy. I took Winnie's drawings and started flipping through them. I'm not a professional, so I can't judge the quality of these works, but looking at these paintings, I found myself deeply drawn in, quickly empathizing with her. Winnie's earlier works had a cold, gloomy palette, filled with a sense of loneliness and despair. Over the past 6 months, her paintings have gradually incorporated warmer tones, like a drowning person catching sight of the shimmering sunlight piercing through the water. Perhaps she truly has a talent for painting. This really surprised me. The book never mentioned the female lead had this skill. I slowly put away Winnie's drawing paper and carefully placed it on the table. After a moment of thought, I slapped my thigh and stood up. Learn, I'll support you in learning painting. We'll go for the art exams. Winnie looked up at me, first in shock, then with joy, and finally with reddened eyes as she ran over and hugged my waist. Thanks, Mom. Over the past 6 months, although my relationship with Winnie has improved quite a bit, this is the first time she's ever run over to hug me. My heart warmed, but I pushed her away without hesitation. I said sternly, art school entrance exams also consider your professional course grades, so I'm signing you up for another tutoring class. We need to focus on both aspects, understand? Winnie wiped her tears and nodded firmly. I'll study hard. After Winnie entered high school, she became very busy, and I was also occupied with making money. I had no idea art exam training could be so expensive, and in a moment of impulse, I agreed to it. Fortunately, the house I had listed online was sold, bringing in $2 million, so I'm financially comfortable now. However, while I was happy, my leech-like mother and good-for-nothing brother were not. So my mom and my brother asked around and found the martial arts gym, then came to make a scene while I was at work. My mom must have graduated from drama school. Her acting skills are top-notch. She plopped down at the entrance of the gym and started wailing, heavens above. My daughter is an ungrateful wretch. She kicked her own brother out of the house and disowned her family. Someone please tell me if this is right. My brother stood by, adding fuel to the fire. Lucy, come out. Look what you've done to Mom. Do you even have a conscience? Soon, under the shouts of this mother-son duo, a large crowd gathered at the entrance of the martial arts gym. I was in the middle of class when I heard the commotion at the door. I ran out without even taking off my boxing gloves. I glared at my brother and snapped impatiently, what the hell are you wailing about? My brother, who had been full of himself, instantly lost half his bravado when he saw my outfit. Don't get cocky, you owe Mom an explanation, he muttered. My mom saw me and cried even louder, pointing at my nose and scolding, you ungrateful wretch, you sold the house behind my back. Are you trying to drive me to my grave? The onlookers, unaware of the truth, heard this and thought I was a freeloader who secretly sold my parents' house and abandoned my younger brother. They all started pointing fingers at me. With my fiery temper, how could I possibly tolerate this injustice? I kicked my brother in a fit of rage, shouting, have you no shame? It's my house that I bought, and letting you live there for so long was already more than generous. My brother was kicked by me and promptly sat on the ground. She hit me. Everyone, judge for yourselves. She even hits people. Isn't it said that when a scholar meets a soldier, reason cannot be explained clearly? Why is it the opposite in my case? The noisy crying and shouting gave me a headache, and just as I was thinking about simply beating my brother up, Winnie ran over and knelt down in front of my mom. Winnie knelt in front of my mom, wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf, even pulling my mom's hand to hit herself repeatedly. "Grandma, it's all my fault. Hit me if you must." Originally, my parents bought this house intending for Uncle to live here permanently, but after my dad passed away, our family lost its income. Mom sold the house to pay for my education. Dad, my dad is gone." Winnie burst into tears, and the scene suddenly fell silent. Everyone finally understood the whole story and cast sympathetic glances at Winnie. A young girl had just lost her father, and her family had to sell their house just to afford her education. What a tragic tale of human suffering. My mom and my brother were completely baffled by Winnie's actions. After standing dumbfounded for a while, my brother ran over to pull Winnie up and scolded her sharply. "Little brat, what nonsense are you spouting?" Seeing this, Winnie pretended to be intimidated, backing away with a frightened expression. "Uncle, don't hit me. I was wrong. The aunties watching nearby couldn't hold back anymore and stepped forward to pull my brother away. "How could you hit a child? The poor thing." Encouraged by the aunties, the crowd began to shift their focus, pointing fingers at my mom and my brother. My mom noticed things were going south and quickly dragged my brother away, looking rather embarrassed. After the crowd dispersed, Winnie finally stopped crying. She grabbed a few tissues, wiped her tears dry, and her expression returned to normal as if nothing had happened. To be honest, at that moment, my mouth was hanging open wide enough to swallow an apple whole. I couldn't believe my eyes and blurted out, "Winnie." Winnie glanced at me with a smug smile. "Next time they come, just tell me, and I'll chase them away." I looked at Winnie in surprise. "How did you learn all this?" Winnie said proudly. "You taught me, last time in the office. You said to be polite first before resorting to force. Master the key points, and find witnesses." Is that what I meant? This ability to draw inferences from one instance, this quality of surpassing one's master. My God, is this still Winnie? No, this is Winnie 2.0. My kid has finally made it. But when I recall Winnie's appearance just now, the way she called out, "Daddy," how she fearfully backed away from my younger brother, it didn't entirely seem like an act. So I asked with concern, "Did my brother used to hit you often?" Winnie looked at me, a fleeting confusion in her eyes, but she quickly nodded. I asked again, "Do you miss your dad?" Winnie smiled faintly. "Not really. He didn't pay much attention to me before. I just never understood why he didn't like me." I wanted to ask him the reason, but now there's no chance anymore. A pang of sorrow welled up in my heart. Before I came, Winnie had endured many wounds throughout her more than 10 years of growth. Her previous introversion, timidity, and reluctance to resist were all closely tied to her upbringing. I patted her head and comforted her. "It's not your fault. You were just a child. You couldn't decide adults' matters. It's not your fault." With a glimmer of joy in her eyes, Winnie looked up at me and said, "I know, and now I have you." Hearing this, I also smiled. "Yes, from now on, you have me." Winnie and I sat at the front desk of the martial arts gym, smiling at each other. David pushed open the door in a hurry, carrying a helmet with his messy hair sticking out. "Who's looking for trouble?" "Lucy, are you okay?" I nodded and said, "It's fine." Winnie chased them away. David walked in, his face finally relaxing from the tension, and placed a hand on my shoulder. "You scared me. I thought someone was bullying you." Winnie looked at the scene, eyeing us both. "Mom, you and David. How am I supposed to explain this? To put it simply, David is pursuing me, and since I'm superficial and also like money, I agreed to consider it, but I thought I'd keep it from Winnie for now. After all, in her mind, I just lost my husband not long ago, and moving on so quickly would seem a bit disloyal. So I stammered, "Well, how should I put this?" Winnie, seeing me struggle to find the right words, was surprisingly straightforward. "I think David is great. I approve of him being my stepdad." Wait, I haven't even agreed to David yet. "What are you agreeing to?" Hearing this, David beamed with joy. "That's my apprentice for you. Didn't teach you for nothing. So the two of you just tag-teamed and settled it for me." Just as I was about to argue with them about this, a young man wearing the same school uniform as Winnie pushed open the door and walked into the martial arts gym. The young man had delicate features, with a gloomy and aloof aura in his eyes. A bad premonition instantly arose in my heart. The boy walked straight up to David and casually called out, "Dad." Winnie and I were both stunned. Then the boy greeted Winnie. What a coincidence, you're here too. David and I stared at each other in shock. After a long moment of stunned silence, I snapped out of it and began to gather my thoughts. I turned to David first, my tone icy. You told me you were single. How do you explain this grown son of yours? David awkwardly averted his gaze, muttering under his breath, I'm divorced. Doesn't that count as single? I glared at him fiercely. Is there anything else you haven't told me? Spit it out now. David took a deep breath and then began to spill everything. My ex-wife is a domineering CEO. We were incompatible and separated long ago. The child took her surname and is under her care. Besides Kevin, we have no other connection. Hearing this, I fell silent. So, this young man really is Kevin, the male lead from the original story. The scumbag who treated Winnie as a substitute, and I might become the stepmother of a scumbag in the future, as well as his mother-in-law. I'm completely confused. My mind is a tangled mess. David had something to do and left the fighting gym with Kevin. After they left, I looked at Winnie, hesitating several times before finally asking, do you know Kevin? Winnie nodded. He's the student council president. I worked with him when I was painting for the school festival. I tentatively asked. Are you close? Winnie thought for a moment and shook her head. We've exchanged no more than 3 sentences in total. Not familiar. My heart, hanging in the air, settled halfway. I pressed further. Winnie, do you like Kevin? Winnie blushed at the question. Mom, I looked at her seriously and earnestly. I'm asking properly, so answer properly. Seeing that I wasn't joking with her, Winnie began to think seriously, then said slowly, I don't like him. Besides, Kevin has a girlfriend. And she's in our class. That girl has a delicate temperament and has recently been targeted by Heidi and her gang. Kevin is kind of her protector. Hearing this, my thoughts surged. Perhaps this is the so-called butterfly effect. Because of my arrival, Winnie's fate in the original book's world has changed. The target of Heidi's bullying changed, and accordingly, the person in Kevin's toxic relationship also shifted. I frowned, pondering over the cause and effect of these events. Winnie, seeing my prolonged silence, thought I didn't believe her and continued to explain. Mom, do you know how Kevin protects his girlfriend? Kevin stood up for that girl and confronted Heidi's group to vent her anger, but behind Kevin's back, Heidi treated the girl even worse, and also, when the girl was scolded by the homeroom teacher for her poor grades, Kevin even used his mother, the school board member, to threaten the teacher. As a result, all the teachers simply stopped paying attention to the girl. I looked at Winnie. You don't like this kind of protection? Winnie shook her head very seriously. Kevin seems to be protecting her, but he hasn't solved any problems. Instead, he's escalated the conflict. In the end, the girl can only rely on him, with no other options. At this point, Winnie looked at me and said with a smile, you were right after all. Relying on oneself is the way to go. Being strong is the ultimate truth. Winnie's words were logically sound, carrying the boldness of a strong female protagonist in a feel-good story, though, it did sound a bit like she was destined to be alone, but at least she had broken free from the toxic cycle with Kevin, no longer at risk of being betrayed or ending up depressed, so I didn't say anything more. As the saying goes, the first step is always the hardest. When I first arrived, I put in a lot of effort to correct Winnie's fate as the tragic heroine in those abusive stories, but once Winnie changed her mindset, things became much smoother afterward. During her senior year of high school, Winnie successfully passed the art college entrance exams. Her foundation in her major courses was relatively weak, but she could endure hardship. Before the college entrance exam, she never went to bed before 3 a.m. Seeing her work tirelessly from dawn to dusk, I felt heartbroken. But Winnie was enjoying it. I'm striving for the life I want. Fortunately, hard work paid off, and Winnie barely made it into the art academy by the skin of her teeth. After starting college, Winnie would video call me every week. Whenever she talked about painting, her face would light up with excitement. She even mentioned that her professors praised her talent, saying she had what it took to make a living from it. During her college years, she dated 2 boyfriends. While in those relationships, she couldn't stop smiling from ear to ear, but when things didn't work out, she always made rational decisions without letting emotions cloud her judgment. Never a hopeless romantic. Over the years, whether dealing with people or situations, Winnie has handled everything with great maturity. I have complete confidence in her. As for me, not long after Winnie left home, David proposed to me. It must be lonely for you at home alone. Why not spend your life with me? At the very least, I can be your sparring partner. I rolled my eyes at him. Please have a clear understanding of yourself. With your combat skills, you wouldn't last 2 rounds with me. The only reason I'm with you is for your money and looks." Upon hearing this, David shamelessly grabbed my hand. "That works too. Doesn't matter what you're after, as long as I've got it." So besides being the biological mother of the abused female lead, I gained another identity. The stepmother of the male lead in the tragic story. Since I'm now a stepmother, I figured I should at least do something decent, so I used my authority as an elder to drag Kevin's girlfriend to a MMA gym for training, while occasionally telling her the cautionary tale of a woman addicted to love digging for wild vegetables, ever since she got together with Kevin. She's endured countless snubs from the family, leaving her utterly worn out. Now that Kevin's white moonlight has also returned to the country, it seems a melodramatic love triangle is about to unfold. I thought this girl's path into a tragic romance had something to do with me, so I decided to lend her a hand. If she comes to her senses and leaves Kevin, I'd consider it a good deed done. But in the end, a person's fate is still their own choice. Her future should depend on herself. After graduation, Winnie started working at a gallery, while her own paintings began to gain recognition in the art circle. Later, she got engaged to the gallery owner, achieving success in both career and love. A year after the engagement, Winnie returned home with her fiancé to hold their wedding. On the eve of her wedding, I slept with her in the bridal chamber, waiting to see her off. At night, Winnie tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep for a long time. I asked, "Can't sleep, nervous?" Winnie turned to face me, "Not nervous, just have something to say to you." I hummed in agreement, signaling for her to continue. Winnie looked at me with an unusually serious expression. "You're not my mom, are you?" I widened my eyes slightly in surprise, but quickly relaxed. "She's so smart. It was only a matter of time before she figured it out." Winnie answered slowly, "My mom would never come to school, let alone stand up for me. My mom wouldn't teach me independence or help me fight. My mom wouldn't sell my uncle's house or support me in chasing my dreams. Besides, there are plenty of other giveaways." Hearing her say that, I chuckled lightly. "So, Winnie had noticed me as early as our first meeting?" I asked. "So, do you think these changes are good or bad?" A smile also appeared on Winnie's face. "I like my life now, and I like the changes you've brought me. Before you came, my life was full of helplessness. As if it had a fixed trajectory I couldn't resist. But you helped me break that trajectory, allowing me to make my own choices." Seeing the confusion in Winnie's eyes, I hesitated for a moment before deciding to tell her, "Winnie, actually, the world you live in is an abusive novel, which is why you felt so trapped and powerless. But I want to tell you, no one's fate is predetermined. Even if you've been given the script of an abusive novel, you can still change the future." Winnie's eyes flashed with shock upon hearing this. But she quickly regained her composure. Her reaction was unexpected, so I asked, "Aren't you surprised?" Winnie nodded. "I am, but it's like the brain in a vat theory. Our world is inherently void, just a figment of our imagination." After a pause, Winnie continued, "But so what? I still love my life and look forward to tomorrow's sun. Rather than dwelling on things beyond my control, I'd rather seize the moment and enjoy the present." I looked at Winnie's appearance, feeling an indescribable emotion in my heart. The once fragile and indecisive little girl has now become so wise and brave. She may not yet be the kind of overpowering female lead seen in wish-fulfillment novels, but she is undoubtedly an independent and resolute adult. Winnie looked up at me and asked, "Then can you tell me your true identity?" I replied, "Actually, I'm just an ordinary reader who can't stand injustice." I flashed a sly smile. "Or you can call me a subscriber of Little Meow Tweets." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, let's continue to see another similar story. I was reborn into the womb of a pregnant supporting female character, becoming a newborn cub. My father is an award-winning actor who had a drunken one-night stand with my mother, resulting in me. But in the original novel, I was never even born. Right now, I'm being held in the arms of a frail beauty. She was murmuring to herself, "Baby, Mia, no longer yearn for George's love. Having you is enough for me." Mom, wait, Mia, George, aren't these the male lead and the villainess from that entertainment industry novel I read before? The male lead is an award-winning actor. The supporting female character is a third-tier celebrity. After a drunken one-night stand, the supporting female character becomes pregnant. Meanwhile, the female lead Daisy is the male lead's childhood sweetheart, who has had a crush on him since they were young and entered the entertainment industry for his sake. after getting pregnant, the supporting female character becomes increasingly demanding and unreasonable, even preventing the male lead from meeting Daisy, ultimately exhausting the little affection he had left for her. In the novel, the supporting female character's child is never born. Is it because I'm too stubborn? Blocking the plot's purpose, in the novel's final outcome, the female lead becomes a film queen, standing side by side with the male lead at the pinnacle of the industry. The role of the supporting female character is to make the male lead realize his feelings for the female lead, truly just a plot device. But the gentle and beautiful woman before me bore no resemblance to the hysterical madwoman from the novel. Had she broken free from the plot's control after her scenes ended? Or was there another reason? A tear fell onto my face. She was crying. It suddenly occurred to me, could all her unusual behavior be due to pregnancy hormones? Lack of care for new mothers can easily lead to postpartum depression. In the hospital room, only her agent was there with her, an aunt who looked stern but held me very gently. Fortunately, someone was with her. I'm already 6 years old. Mia seemed to have genuinely forgotten those past events, just as she had said before. She no longer yearned for George's love. Having me was enough for her. She devoted all her attention to me. In front of me, she always maintained emotional stability. That was the only time I ever saw her lose control. Sophia, why have I never seen your father come to play with you? Don't you have a dad? Ahaha, my grandma says that's called a fatherless wild child. Children's malice is very direct. Even 6-year-old kids understand everything when dealing with such annoying brats. I let my fists do the talking. In the end, those parents came to Mia with their bruised children, demanding an explanation. The most aggressive among them was that gossipy grandmother. You single mothers just can't discipline your kids properly. Look how badly you've beaten our Tayo Tayo. A little girl hitting so hard. Clearly lacks proper upbringing. I walked over and said to that person, so you're Tayo Tayo's grandma. You're the one who told Tayo Tayo I'm a fatherless wild child. Hearing what I said, the other parents' expressions toward Tayo Tayo's grandma changed. So it was you who taught the child to be foul-mouthed. Serves you right for getting beaten. The remaining parents took their children and left, apologizing to Mia before they went. Sorry, Sophia's mom. We didn't discipline our child properly. Jump's grandmother still wanted to make a scene. Mia's face darkened. Shameless people come in all ages, and some grow even thicker-skinned as they get older. The onlookers pointed fingers at Tayo Tayo's grandmother, who felt embarrassed and ran away, dragging Tayo Tayo with her. After returning home, Mia finally let down her tough exterior. Sophia, do you ever wish you had a dad? I could hear the exhaustion in her voice and hugged her. I don't want it. I already have the best mom. I thought the matter would end there, but unexpectedly, someone recorded what happened that day and posted it online. At first, the comments were all about how the old lady was gossipy and morally corrupt. Later, someone remarked, doesn't that heavily armed single mom look a bit like Mia? The little girl resembles her too. After that, things quickly spiraled out of control. Mia's agent called her, saying they couldn't keep it under wraps anymore. After hanging up the phone, Mia posted a social media update. I have a daughter, and she is my whole world. Over the years, she had been continuously acting. Due to a shift in her mindset, she was able to settle down and focus on honing her craft, gradually transforming from a third-tier celebrity reliant on popularity into a respected actress known for her acting skills. As a result, her social media comments section wasn't particularly tumultuous. So, did my sister have a daughter 6 years ago? A single mother? Mia, how did you get through these 6 years? What we see now is a mature and brave sister nearing 30, but how did you manage when you were 24? In the video, Sophia has been raised so well by her sister, brave, reasonable, and protective of her mom, yet I can't help but cry for the carefree, joyful Mia I first fell in love with. Doesn't anyone want to know who the father is? Whispering here. Sophia looks a bit like George. Wasn't there a rumor 6 years ago that these two were together? Even netizens guessed it. So how could my scumbag dad not have seen this news? I frowned as I looked at the man in front of me, all wrapped up tightly and wearing sunglasses, thinking to myself, George, don't you think you look like a child trafficker right now? George opened his mouth and said, I am your father. I widened my eyes, having never seen someone so shameless. How dare he just casually claim fatherhood like that? He somehow found out Mia's address, who knows how, and showed up at the little garden I often played in, while the nanny went to fetch something, leaving me alone for a while. He suddenly appeared. Sophia, I'm your biological father. No one will ever call you a bastard child again. Oh wow, George is really patting himself on the back here. Huh, does he really think I'd just accept him as my dad after saying that? He abandoned Mia when she was pregnant, choosing so-called love. For 6 years, he never cared or asked about me. If it weren't for that video, George probably wouldn't even know I existed. I'll take good care of you and give you the best life. How hilarious. Is George a comedian or something? Why does he think his few words can compare to Mia's 6 years, just because he said he'd give me the best living conditions? Come on, my mom Mia may not be a top-tier celebrity, but she's been steadily building her career, step by step. She has both reputation and acting skills. Mia has worked hard all these years, and she's quite wealthy too. I looked around and saw many parents playing with their children. I gathered my emotions and immediately burst into loud sobs, crying and shouting at the same time. Help! There's a kidnapper here trying to take me away. Child traffickers are stealing kids. For parents, the most detestable thing is child traffickers. With my outburst, many parents surrounded George, shielding me in front. How dare you, child traffickers snatching kids in broad daylight, you heartless monsters, stealing other people's children. Have you no shame? Someone was already preparing to call the police. George fled in panic, looking completely different from his usual glamorous celebrity image. Ha ha ha, serves him right. When Mia found out about this, she worriedly asked if I was hurt. I shook my head and said I had driven the bad guy away without a scratch. The nanny also felt guilty, thinking it was because she had stepped away for a moment. Mia didn't blame her. The security in this neighborhood is excellent, and you always take such good care of Sophia when I'm working. So attentive and thoughtful. She hesitated for a moment, glanced at me, and then continued, that person isn't a kidnapper. He's her biological father. Mia crouched in front of me. Sophia. Did he say anything to you? I told Mia everything George said. She suddenly hugged me, murmuring to herself, I won't let him take you away from me. I kissed Mia's cheek. Mom, I won't leave. I just want to stay by your side, and I've known for a long time that he's my dad. How did you know? I pretended to be profound. Every time his drama comes on TV, you change the channel. You wouldn't even let me watch his commercials. Mia looked at me and touched my face. You look a bit like him. I nodded. Genetics are powerful. I'm like a combination of the two of them. His only use was passing down his good looks to me. Mom, is Sophia the cutest and prettiest child you've ever seen? Mia nodded with a smile. Sophia is the prettiest, cutest, and smartest little one. Mommy's good baby. How about you come with Mom to the film set this holiday? That's true. Who knows when George might show up again? I nodded. All right. Since Mom misses me, I'll go keep her company. The drama Mia is currently filming is her first leading role as the female protagonist in her many years in the industry, and not just any lead role. She's the absolute central character carrying the entire show. It can be said that this drama is crucial for her career development. If it goes well, her career will reach new heights. If not, it will be very difficult for her to secure the lead role in such a major production again in the future. I try to be a good kid and not cause any trouble for Mia. In the drama, the male lead is a young and passionate rookie. Off-screen, the actor is a naturally talented young performer. He really enjoys playing with children and seeing his childish behavior. I even feel more mature than him. Brother Jack, can't you act like an adult? Hearing me call him, Jack suddenly became serious for some reason. You're wrong, little Sophia. You should call me Uncle Jack. I was a bit speechless. Fine. As long as you don't mind me making you sound old. All right. Uncle Jack. He was playing with me when he suddenly stopped for some reason. I followed his gaze. Oh no, here we go again. George arrived, talking to Mia about something. Mia's expression stiffened slightly. Jack withdrew his gaze and looked at me, as if wanting to ask something. I met his eyes and nodded solemnly. You don't need to say it out loud. You're right about everything. His eyes widened, as if he had just discovered some earth-shattering gossip. Maybe I was mistaken, but I felt like his gaze toward George carried a hint of hostility. Well, who wouldn't despise a scumbag? I moved closer and overheard their conversation. A child's growth cannot be without a father. You wouldn't want Sophia to be called a bastard, would you? I hope to have Sophia stay with me for a while. You're busy filming and taking care of her at the same time. It must be overwhelming, right? I have to say George is truly despicable. Every word he says stabs at Mia's heart. After that incident, Mia had been holding onto this resentment deep down. She did the best she could, yet the daughter she cherished most was called a bastard child. Mia had been reading books on child psychology. I secretly peeked and saw she had written a sentence in the book, even if I do my best. Can I never replace a father's role in a child's growth? I really hate George, he declared to Mia with a condescending attitude. No matter how well you do, you can't escape me. I didn't feel that George loved me that much either. His mentality is more like, this is my daughter, and I want everyone to know who her father is. Mia asked if I wanted to go. I smiled and nodded. Didn't George want me to go to his house? Perfect. I didn't come to join this family. I came to destroy it. I met Daisy at George's house, this woman, who grew up with George and loved him for many years. Honestly, George is such a jerk. 6 years ago, he left Mia to pursue his own love. The novel ends right here. What about now? Daisy has been living with him for 6 years, and George still hasn't proposed to her. His love is truly cheap. Daisy thoughtfully prepared everything I might need, bought me many gifts, and helped me get familiar with their home. As for George, he acted as if he had just completed a task or won a battle. He doesn't care about what happens after winning. He leaves everything to Daisy and becomes a hands-off boss. However, I didn't come here to enjoy myself. I came here to make trouble. I'm so scared. Wah. In the middle of the night, I knocked on George's door in tears. He looked annoyed. Sophia, what's wrong? I'm scared to sleep alone. My mom used to stay with me before. George suppressed his irritation and let me in. In the middle of the night, George was awakened by the cold. He felt something on his face and realized it was a cold towel when he touched it. Opening my eyes, I saw him looking at me cautiously. I wanted to wash my face, but my hand slipped accidentally. George took a deep breath and threw the towel away, muttering under his breath, "She's just a 6-year-old girl." She didn't mean it. In just one short week, George was tormented by me in every possible way. He went from being a glamorous male celebrity to a haggard, rough-looking man. To be honest, I just wanted him to experience what real parenting is like. In front of Mia, I'm indeed a good baby, but compared to Mia, the exhaustion George endured these 7 days is like night and day. Daisy truly loves George. She felt heartbroken seeing him grow haggard and volunteered to accompany me at night. I lowered my head and spoke softly, but in reality, all 3 people present could hear me clearly. But my mom has always taken such good care of me. Uncle George said he was my dad, but he couldn't even last a week. I video call Mia every day. It's clear that her role in this drama is quite demanding. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were bright. She truly loved this drama series. She treated her works as her other children. Indeed, it was through her children that she had made her way step by step over these 6 years. Mom, I believe you can do great. You're the best. Mia smiled and said that hearing my words filled her with strength. She told me to go to bed early, otherwise I wouldn't grow taller. Every time we video call, Mia always lets me hang up first. It suddenly occurred to me, the one who hangs up last is the one who loves more, so I want to see it through to the end. Mom, you hang up first. Mia was puzzled. What's going on in that little head of yours? I shook my head, refusing to say it out loud, the moment the call ended. The words on the screen seemed to say, "I love you so much." Before I could even take a moment to reflect on this heartwarming mother-daughter bond with Mia, Daisy knocked on the door. "Sophia, have you finished talking with your mom? May I come in?" I nodded. "Aunt Daisy, come in." Daisy seemed to have something to say to me. "Sophia, Auntie wants to ask you something. Why do you always call Dad Uncle George?" I tilted my head. Why can't I call him Uncle George? Daisy was left speechless by my response. "You should call him Dad. If you call him Dad, he'll be very happy. Do I care if he's happy or not? But honestly, Daisy, you really love him. I mean no harm to Daisy, but what I say might hurt her. Auntie, Mom has been with me for 6 years. I think the titles, Mom, and Dad, carry the same weight, but I've only known Uncle George for a month. I don't feel he's as important as Mom." "Aunt Daisy, how long have you been with Uncle George?" Daisy said. 6 years, I nodded. I've also been with my mom for 6 years, and I think I'll be with her forever. What about you, Auntie? Will you and Uncle George stay together too? Daisy hesitated. She loved George, but she wasn't a fool. For 6 years together, George never mentioned a future with her. Before, even when she felt something was off, she didn't dare to dwell on it. How could she dare to consider the possibility that George might not love her that much? She could only hypnotize herself into believing he loved her. 6 years ago, he left the woman who was carrying his child, telling her he loved her, so she hypnotized herself again. I often chat with Uncle Jack. He cares a lot about my life here with George. He asked if I was getting used to it and if there was anything uncomfortable about my stay. He mentioned it casually. Actually, Mia really misses you. I feel like she's lost weight, but filming is physically demanding. And Mia always pushes herself too hard. I don't know what to say. Advise her not to take everything upon herself. Advise her to rest well. She would only smile and say, "Got it, sweetie," but she would still continue afterward. I once overheard a conversation between Mia and her agent and by chance. "You don't have to push yourself so hard, Mia." Mia shook her head with a smile. What had she said back then? I always want to do better, striving to be Sophia's role model. Sometimes I think back to the mistakes I made for a man, and it still gives me chills. Sophia is just a little girl, and I'm afraid she might end up like the old me. It doesn't matter if I get hurt, but the thought of her possibly getting hurt feels like a knife stabbing my heart. Wait, there's something wrong with what I just said. It's not okay if I get hurt. If I don't love myself, how can I teach Sophia to love herself? If I become a better version of myself, leading by example, Sophia will grow up better too. I put away my memories and sent a message to Jack. Mia is the best. He also replied to me, Mia is the best. George really keeps changing my perception of him every time. I thought he was already scummy enough, but I never imagined he could be even worse. He called his agent. The agent said he hadn't been paying enough attention to his image lately, looking too haggard and rough, losing a lot of his looks-obsessed fans. Hearing that, George grew furious out of embarrassment. Someone actually called George ugly. Do they even have eyes? How could anyone look at this face and say the word ugly? And take care of that woman, make sure she doesn't go around talking nonsense. That woman. Does George have another woman besides Daisy? I have a hunch something's going on here, so I plan to check George's phone tonight. What a huge sacrifice. Here I am, just a kid, giving up my sleep time to uphold justice for Aunt Daisy. George's phone password is his own birthday. I opened his chat history with his agent and scrolled through it for a long time, starting with a smile, ending with a frown. Oh my God, George actually cheated. The woman took photos as evidence to threaten him. He didn't seem to care at all. If he had even the slightest concern for Daisy, he wouldn't have been so relaxed when things were about to be exposed. But then again, if he had truly cared about Daisy, he wouldn't have cheated in the first place. I stared at George's face, handsome yet repulsive, and felt utterly speechless. How could anyone have such a father? Thankfully, Mia escaped that misery 6 years ago. I anonymously sent those pieces of evidence to Daisy. I couldn't bear to see her being deceived any longer, of course. If Daisy can still forgive after this, then forget I said anything, respect and best wishes. But I thought about it, and George's arrogance was probably because he had always had it too easy before. Being handsome, he became famous effortlessly. He also had a natural talent for acting, winning the Best Actor award at the peak of his youth. The author really gave him all the protagonist's advantages. But his personality and character are truly concerning. Outwardly, he's adored by fans, and inwardly, he's loved by Daisy. He probably doesn't even know the word refusal exists in this world, does he? So he got angry, even competitive, because Mia hid my existence from him for 6 years. That's why he dared to cheat without restraint, because he believed Daisy and his fans would unconditionally forgive him. That's why he got angry upon hearing from his manager that he had lost a large number of fans due to his haggard appearance. But fate wouldn't always favor George, especially when he didn't cherish it. Daisy was calmer than I had imagined. I even doubted whether she had received the message at all, until I saw her accidentally put chili in the dish she made for George. George can't eat spicy food, so Daisy never adds chili, even though she enjoys spicy food herself. But today, after staring at the meal that had accidentally been spiced with chili for a long time, she still placed it in front of George. Only then did I confirm that she had seen those messages. She wasn't completely indifferent. George didn't notice and took a bite, coughing violently from the spiciness. Daisy didn't care about him as much as before, instead leisurely eating her meal. George coughed beside her, but she remained focused on the spicy dish in front of her. Daisy, what exactly are you doing? Daisy put down her chopsticks and asked me with a smile, Sophia, are you full? If you're done, go play in your room by yourself. I glanced at this somewhat eerie scene and nodded. When I reached the corner, I secretly stopped. To be honest, I wasn't full, so of course I'm not going back to the room. George looked at Daisy irritably. You know I can't handle spicy food, right? Why is there chili in the dish? Daisy didn't answer his question. What were you doing on the evening of October 8th? George's face stiffened. but it didn't stop him from talking back. I was at the company, of course. Then what's this? Daisy took out the bed photos of George's affair and slammed them on the table. That was just a mistake. So are you questioning me now? What is George saying? How can he be so self-righteous? A mistake. More like a mistake that got caught on camera, right? What kind of person am I in your heart? Have you ever thought about marrying me? George grew extremely impatient upon hearing Daisy's words. What more do you want? Didn't you say you've liked me since childhood? Weren't you the one who claimed just being by my side made you happy? Why so many demands now? I've already explained. Yet you still don't believe me. Daisy was deeply hurt by his words. How ridiculous of me to think your love for me was real. Clearly, you love only yourself. You don't have to like me. But why did you have to lie to me? If you could walk away from Mia when she was pregnant 6 years ago, then 6 years later, you're capable of cheating and betraying me. George frowned. 6 years ago, Mia was being unreasonable. Even the doctor said the baby couldn't be saved back then. Daisy probably didn't expect George to say such things either. That's your child too. George didn't care. Why would he? Even Daisy lowered her voice out of concern that I might hear. But George did nothing at all. Perhaps in his heart, it didn't matter if I heard, because he simply didn't care about me. I can have many children. Haven't you always wanted a child? After I deal with this matter, I'll give you a child, no matter what. You are the woman I love most. Is this a reward for my obedience? Daisy smiled, but tears streamed from her eyes. I watched George from the corner, grateful that I never expected his fatherly love in the first place. I don't want to stay here anymore. I miss Mia. I don't know what Daisy is thinking. After that day, she acted as if nothing had happened. Just like always, I sighed. Sophia, what's wrong? Is something bothering you? Daisy asked me gently. I looked at Daisy and thought to myself, it's truly upsetting. How can you still forgive him after all this? Do you love him that much? Aunt Daisy, I miss my mom. I want to go back. Daisy didn't stop me. Instead, she took me to the film set. In the car, she patted my head. Good girl. It's a good thing you're not like him. Aunt Daisy, what did you say? Daisy said with a smile. You're a good kid, just like your mom. I suspect Jack has ulterior motives. Why does it feel like Jack has changed quite a bit during the month I was at George's place? Before, he would call Mia, Professor Mia, or Sister Mia, all the time. Mia is actually quite a distant person. She's gentle yet aloof with outsiders, making it hard for anyone to get close to her. Jack used to hang out with me often, so Mia became somewhat closer to him because of that. But what's going on now? The way Jack looks at Mia reminds me of a puppy's sparkling eyes. He no longer calls Mia, Sister Mia. If a younger man stops calling you, sister, his intentions might not be pure. I scrutinize him critically, from head to toe, from appearance to substance. Little Sophia, what are you looking at? Jack treated me as usual. Wow, could it be that he wants to be my stepdad the first time we meet? That would make sense then. No wonder he didn't want me to call him brother, and insisted on being called uncle. So he didn't want to be a generation younger than Mia. Even during our previous conversations, his words subtly revealed his concern for Mia's health. With a serious expression, I said to Jack, confess, are you trying to pursue Mia? He actually admitted it outright. I am pursuing her, but I got rejected. I widened my eyes. What happened in the month I was gone? Jack looked at me with a complicated expression. Sophia, you really have a great mom. She said she might fall in love in the future, but she wouldn't marry anyone else, nor would she have another child. Do you know why she feels this way? On one hand, it's to make me back off, and on the other hand, she genuinely believes it. She doesn't want you to have a stepfather, doesn't want you to carry any psychological burden, doesn't want to affect your physical or mental health, and doesn't want you to entertain even the slightest thought of, will mom stop loving me? I didn't know what to say. Seeing me somewhat dejected, Jack continued, it's not like she gave up her life because of you. She's not opposed to love or to making herself happy. So Sophia, you don't need to feel guilty because of what I said. Speaking of which, it's not like I don't have a chance either. There's nothing wrong with being in love all the time. I looked at Jack, who had regained his energy and was cheering himself up, feeling somewhat speechless. When did you start liking my mom? Jack stroked his chin, pondering, I don't know either. Would you believe me if I said I didn't have any ulterior motives for her at first? My expression answered for me. I didn't believe it. Ha ha ha. At first it was truly just admiration. I felt Professor Mia was a gentle yet strong person. Later, your video was posted, and once I saw her in the corner. Though her expression was unclear, I could sense her sadness. I wanted to understand her, and the more I learned, the more my heart was moved. She is someone who was broken and then rebuilt, a person with both a sense of responsibility and love, gentle on the outside but strong within. I was drawn to this version of Mia. Before I knew it, my admiration for her had turned into affection. I feel conflicted, not just because of Jack's respect for me, even though he sees me as a little kid. He still answered my questions sincerely, but also because someone loves Mia for her soul. What is love? Jack's love is passionate, Daisy's love is insane. Beneath her seemingly indifferent exterior lies a madness that wants to tear love apart with her own hands. Suddenly, numerous exposés about George appeared online. Some of them were known only to those closest to him. It's Daisy. She truly loved George. Loved him so much that only she could be the one to destroy him, but George totally deserved it. With irrefutable evidence, George's fans abandoned him en masse. Bad news has wings. George has essentially faced social death this time. He can't survive in the entertainment industry anymore. In stark contrast to George is Mia's current situation. The drama series aired. Not only did it achieve soaring ratings, but it also sparked a nationwide viewing frenzy. Mia became an actress recognized by audiences of all ages. She gradually stepped into the spotlight of public attention. Now when people mention her, they say, "Oh, that's the actress with great acting skills." That day, I was at home binge-watching Mia's drama. She answered a phone call with a serious expression. After hanging up, she said to me, "Sophia, we need to go to the hospital." I was very confused. Why go to the hospital? Mia paused for a moment. George has been in a daze because of recent events and crashed his car into a tree. He's currently in the hospital undergoing emergency treatment. I remained silent, wondering if this was his retribution. Still, I obediently followed Mia to the hospital. The surgery is over. The doctor came out with a complicated expression and said to George's agent, "The patient has been saved, but due to the impact, it will be very difficult for him to have children in the future." I opened my mouth wide. Oh my God, George has lost his fertility. I suddenly remembered what he said to Daisy before, "I can have many children." How ironic, how ironic. George is truly socially dead this time. No one knows who leaked the news of his infertility online. For a moment, the scene was absolutely wild. Onlookers, sarcastic remarks. It was quite the spectacle. The fate of a cheater. OMG. I used to be a fan of his looks, but I unfollowed when his face started to sag. Now, not only has he lost his good looks, but he can't even reproduce anymore. That's insane. The most absurdly funny news I've seen in 2023. Karma's a bitch. If he hadn't violated traffic rules and driven while fatigued, this wouldn't have happened to him, right? This story tells us we must obey traffic regulations. Leaving aside the online reactions, George was utterly devastated anyway. I don't know if Daisy genuinely wants to take care of him or if she's trying to torment him. She keeps nagging in his ear. "It's okay if you can't have children, as long as you're safe and sound." I feel like George would rather just die right now. Daisy now seems more like a wolf in sheep's clothing to me, but she's still very gentle with me. I strongly suspect that she stays by George's side just to watch him suffer more and more. George can't go on living in this place. Anyone who has seen his face would know he's that George, the one with a chaotic personal life who lost his fertility due to reckless driving that violated traffic rules. Before going abroad, he wanted to express some paternal love one last time. After all, I'm now his only child. He said he'd transfer me a large sum of money and wanted to hear me call him Dad one last time. I happily called out when I saw his signature take effect. A single Daddy in exchange for so much money. Totally worth it. After getting what he wanted, he sighed and said, "Sophia, will you miss your dad in the future?" I replied with a smile, "No, I am your daughter, after all." Before he could say anything else, I immediately ran off. Mia came home and saw the documents on the table. "Sophia, where did this money come from?" I said with a grin. "Scammed it from bad people." Mia seemed a bit angry. I asked cautiously, "Would Mom stop liking me if she thought I was a bad kid?" Mia sighed. "You do realize you've done something not quite right, don't you? We're not short of money. We don't need George's money. Tell me, why did you do this?" I pouted. "Because I wanted to make him upset. I hate him and wanted to mess with him one last time. So I deliberately acted like that." Mia was very nervous today because she was attending an award ceremony tonight. No actor doesn't want that trophy. It is the highest recognition of an actor's performance. "Mom, What are you nervous about? Mia pursed her lips. I'm afraid I won't win this award. She was afraid. Her 6 years, she needed validation, but Mom, the purpose of an award is to tell everyone that this actor's performance is outstanding, that they're a great actor. You've already achieved that, everyone thinks so, you don't need anything else to prove yourself. Though I comforted her like that, I always believed Mia would definitely win the award, as expected, on the TV screen. During the award ceremony, the camera focused on the 4 nominees. Mia looked stunning today, radiant and dazzling. But I noticed her hands were tightly clenched the whole time, only relaxing when the presenter announced her name. She won this award. But Uncle Jack, why are you so excited? You were even the first one to hug Mia. Tone down your gaze a little. What was Mia thinking during that walk to the stage? When she comes back, I must ask her. She took the trophy from the presenter and examined it carefully for a few seconds. Sophia, I've won this award. From now on, I will continue to work hard and present more great works to the audience. She thanked the director, the staff, her co-stars, her fans, and the agent aunt who had always been by her side. Finally, she thanked me. Thank you to my daughter Sophia. Thank you for her existence. Mia returned home very late. I forced myself to stay awake just to ask her that question. Mom, what were you thinking on your way to the podium? Mia thought for a moment, but before she could answer, I drifted off to sleep. Faintly, it sounded like she was speaking. I was wondering if I'd become your role model. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even the protagonist. I don't have any cheat skills. Sophia, why are you pouting? Did something upset you at school? Mom, I acted in a play, playing the lead role. But I don't have any cheat skills or amazing abilities. The other kids' scripts were all so impressive. Mia patted my head and comforted me with a smile. Not everyone has cheat skills, you know. What about you? Mom, I feel like my golden finger is you. Sophia's existence is the greatest golden finger for Mom. Am I that important? Yes, you are very important. Because of you, I've become a better person. I feel so happy right now. I asked curiously, will our happy life include an Uncle Jack? Jack continued to appear frequently in our lives even after the collaboration ended. He was really serious about pursuing Mia. Understand her preferences and strive to develop shared interests with her. Today, Mia placed the flowers Jack gave her in her favorite vase. I think Mia's attitude is softening, but Mia just smiled and pinched my cheek. It's a matter of time.